Welcome to Living the Empowered Life channel. My name is Yvonne and this channel is all about bringing you things empowering, encouraging and inspiring. On this channel I share things to help you live the empowered life, basically live a life true to yourself. I also do book reviews, interviews and all sorts of other things, and I do also take you out and about with me when I do little things to show you how I live the empowered life. So if this is the type of content that you're looking for, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified of any new uploads. So in today's video I want to share a quick book review of a book I've recently read by somebody called Dapper Dan. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is a clothes designer and has been recently known, probably in the last 1 or 2 years, to have done capsule design collections for the brand Gucci. Now I first heard about Dapper Dan many years ago, but I only ever really heard about the name, didn't really know about the person. But back in 2019 he became known to me as the person because of his collections with Gucci. Now he blew up because he had done designs back in the day, we're talking about the early 80s, for rappers, gangsters, drug dealers and people like that, that were based off Gucci designs, and other prominent makes as well, like MGM, and I think also as well Louis Vuitton. He recently came to the forefront of public attention back, I think, in 2018 when Gucci's Cruise collection featured one of his designs. Now it's important to say here that it was their logo, but his design and style of doing clothing they did use in this collection, and a lot of people were really upset about this, especially black people, because they said that Gucci was ripping off Dapper Dan's designs and they believed that they were not giving Dapper Dan the recognition and credit that he deserved. The fact that he was also using their logos in their design, that is something I'm going to get into a bit later, but that is how he became known to me. Also as well, in 2019 Gucci came under heavy criticism because of their blackface kind of collection that they did. A lot of black people took offense to this design. It kind of reminded people of when white people called black people gollywogs, and Dapper Dan spoke out publicly against Gucci for allowing this type of design to be made to the public for people to buy. The consequence of that is obviously Gucci did face a lot of backlash. A lot of people, black people, were saying to boycott Gucci, which a lot of them did. They did do a public apology, apologising for this offence that black people felt because of this design, and also they got Dapper Dan involved in being able to relay that message back across to the black community, and also kind of to raise awareness of why it was so sensitive. So Dapper Dan became known more publicly because of that, but he is really known for how he brought his brand of fashion into the hip-hop culture. We're talking about people like Eric B and Rakim, LL Cool J, lots of different people like Mike Tyson all bought his designs, and it was a huge deal back then because nobody was really wearing name brand clothes like Gucci and stuff like that back in the 80s. And you know, Dapper Dan's designs did bring that merge between the two cultures of streetwear, designer and also the hip-hop culture. So I brought this book on eBay back in December 2020. I paid £8.59 for this book. I did look on Amazon and other places to see if I could get it for cheaper. Unfortunately, as I've said on other videos, there isn't really a lot of places anymore that are doing thrift books for a lot less money. So I ended up paying £8.59 for it. I did start reading it over the Christmas, but as I had other books on the go, I didn't really get around to finishing it. I finished other books. I'm not saying it's taken me from December to now July to finish this one book, but nevertheless, you know, I read the book and I just want to share my thoughts on it with you. So this book really is a journey from Dapper Dan's beginnings in his childhood all the way through to where he is today. It didn't really cover his collaboration with Gucci. I think it was up until a certain point that this book covered, but nevertheless, reading about his journey from childhood and through all the different things that he went through was actually quite interesting. He grew up in a family where he had, I think, 7 siblings in total. I think he had 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and they grew up in 1950s Harlem. Now, I loved reading about the background to Harlem growing up in those times, and it seemed like a real community that he grew up in 1950s Harlem. There was definitely a lot of poverty. He talks about times where he had to wear shoes with holes in them and putting cardboard in his shoes. Also, it was kind of a weird blend of also glamour, because his mother and other people in the neighborhood would wear things like fur coats, and go out drinking, have these different types of parties. So it kind of was a mix of both types of lives, really. One of the things that was really clear about Dapper Dan from a young child is that he had a spirit of being an entrepreneur. He always put his hand and head to everything that he did. Now, Dapper Dan was really intelligent. He mentioned in this book that, you know, he was really good at poetry. He got his creative side, I think, from his mother. His father was a really hard worker, working different jobs to keep food on the family table. He was really somebody who was quite talented. As I said, he was a poet. And later on, you know, he got into journalism, being offered a scholarship along the way. So there were opportunities for Dapper Dan to go on to do other things rather than to aspire to hood dreams. I suppose it was quite hard for him to get away from, because a lot of people that him, as I said, and other kids looked up to in the neighborhood were hustlers, gamblers, and drug dealers. They were the ones that had all the things that these kids wanted. Flyest cars, with the girls, with the best clothes. And because of that, from an early age, he decided he wanted to be like them. These were the people he aspired to be like. And he spent less time focusing on his poetry and other things that could have given him more of an honest route out of the neighborhood, and spent his time studying those in the neighborhood who seemed to be making moves. But basically, you know, from a young age, he started to study those in the neighborhood who were doing dice, like throwing dice. It's a game that they played. Anything that he does, whether it is studying how people played the dice game, to whatever he put his mind to, he would study it and perfect it. He wanted to be the best at everything that he done. Besides being studious and, you know, doing things that will help him to become better at whatever he was doing, whether good or bad, he was also a powerhouse of ideas. And one of the things that's really good about him when he had ideas is that he would quickly go to executing those ideas the best way he knew how. He went through periods of being in prison for different types of offences. Also, he became a heroin addict for a while as well. But he managed to rise out of those challenges. So his design journey really started when he went over to Africa on a programme through a university, I think, or a college that was offered. He started to notice with the African people their sense of flair, their sense of style, and became really intrigued by it. Up until this point, you know, he was playing dice, he was doing all these different things that were quite, if I must say so myself, quite dishonest, and he was looking for something else to do, and that is where fashion came into it. When he came back, he started to have more of an interest in fashion, and basically when he came back from Africa, he connected with other people, I think, who were from the Congolese or Senegal background, who were into making clothing, like clothes makers, and he would get them to make him the fly suits, and people would comment on him and comment on his style, and people would want to dress like him. And then came his next idea to become a fashion designer. He used money that he was getting from the dice game to fund his business. So what he started to do was to make clothes for the local drug dealers and gangsters and other people in the neighborhood. He became well known for his designs. What he was doing was to rip off intellectual property of other big brand designers like Gucci and make his own designs using furs and incorporating their logos into it. He didn't own the intellectual copyright for logos from Gucci or MGM or all the other brands he was copying, and in common terms he probably would be known as a bootlegger, even though Dapper Dan does beg to differ, because he was really upset when, after many months of, you know, making money from incorporating their logo into his designs. His designs were then taken away by, I think, a branch of FBI or somewhere like that, where they take away counterfeit goods. He was very upset about this, very mad about it. But in all honesty, I wondered why he was mad, because in the first place, even though he created these designs, which were very popular with, you know, boxers, rappers, hustlers, drug dealers and stuff, no one is denying that, you know, his clothes makers, these tailors were very talented, were able to execute his ideas. But you can't get away from the fact that he was taking these companies' logos and stuff and incorporating into his designs. Obviously they're going to be upset about that. Obviously they're not getting a cut of that, and that is why they took the designs. After a while, you know, he was closed down because he couldn't keep up with them taking, you know, his stuff. So he went through a period of feeling down, but rather than learning his lesson, he went back and did the same thing again by using Chanel's logos now to make t-shirts for tourists. Also in the book, he was really devastated about the drug use in Harlem and the rise of drugs, how it was affecting the community. But yet he was still selling to the very people who he was having a problem with about the rise of drugs within the community, the drug dealers and people like that. His clientele was always around this type of people. And even though much later on, as I said, in the 80s when MTV started, you know, he had clients like Eric B. and Rakim, LL Cool J and different people like that. Even though he had some clientele like boxers like Mike Tyson as well, who were buying these designs and coming down and buying these designs, a lot of his customers were from this type of lifestyle. I did find Dapper Dan to be a little bit self-centered in this book, but there were a couple of things that I did really like about, you know, what he did with things like he remembered the time when his father was young and couldn't really read and wanted to get a suit on layaway, and the people in the shop were going to charge his dad extortionate amount, which his dad would have signed up for because he couldn't read, and it's because he stepped in and looked at the contract he told his dad not to sign it. But years later, when he had his shop, he remembered that experience with his dad and offered those in the neighborhood that couldn't quite afford the designs that he was doing for the drug dealers and people like that, the celebrities. He offered them a layaway plan, meaning that they could pay off in installments to buy his clothes. Also as well, I love the fact that he was trying to, in his neighborhood, support the young people by, you know, trying to take them away from that lifestyle, you know, allowing them to come in his shop, having things in his shop for them to do, mentoring them and different things like that. These are a couple of the things that I found that Dapper Dan did that was really admirable. But I do think that Dapper Dan did lack morals in this book. A lot of the things that he did involved cheating, ripping people off, underpricing people, and, you know, I don't think that is really good. And I didn't really come away from reading this book really inspired by him as a person, even though I could appreciate his entrepreneur spirit and his tenacity to get things done. I do think that the way that he did things was not really good. I will leave a link to the book below for you to check out for yourself. If you're somebody who's really interested in finding out about an entrepreneur's journey, Dapper Dan's book is a book to read. Very interesting. As I said, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he did in this book, but his journey, the background that he shares about the era that he grew up in, really painted a picture of his lifestyle and the different things that were going on for him at that time, and also his journey, you know, to finding himself, which did involve spirituality, but at no point in the book did I really see it being an anchor for him to kind of change his ways when it came to dealing with people and doing things. This book review really is about my opinion of the book. Obviously, if you've read it, you might have had a different opinion of it. But anyway, in the comments, let me know, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.